Resident Evil, a franchise that's quite a household name these days. Been around for 30 odd years at the time of recording this. Requiem is around the corner at the time of recording this too. But at some stage in the middle of its sort of legacy, I would say, it kind of got lost a bit with trying to be action, trying to be Call of Duty, that sort of thing. And if people wanted to play Call of Duty at that stage, most people have rightfully said they would go and play Call of Duty. But with Resident Evil 5 and 6, some would argue that Resident Evil 4 kind of started this push with the more action focus. Um, Capcom kind of lost their way with what made Resident Evil Resident Evil. And after 5, 6, and whatever the hell bloody Umbrella Core was, I don't even want to talk about that game, to be honest, of how bad it was. They went quiet. They decided to go, okay, we'll work on a Resident Evil 2 remake, which they just subtly announced in 2015 saying we'll do it. Then they went quiet about that. But E3 2016, they showed off what was basically a reboot. It was a reboot in the form of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which I thought was a quite nice subtitle for us here in the West, because in Japan it's called Biohazard, but in the West it's called Resident Evil, because if we go back in the day, it's due to copyright reasons. Some say it's due to the fact of the metal band Biohazard having the copyright here in the West, but that's not been confirmed, and I'm not sure if that's true either. Correct me if I'm wrong down below. But and vice versa in Japan, it's called Biohazard Resident Evil, which I thought was a nice touch. It was a nice title to have to reboot a saga, as it were. And the biggest jump was first person perspective. It went for quite a generic genre, some would say, and quite overused in the horror genre. But I think at the time, with first person horror games kind of really taking off in 2017, it was a massive and different direction for Capcom to go with the Resident Evil franchise. And it went back to survival horror roots, very much survival horror roots. You weren't like this trained soldier, you weren't like a police officer or anything like that. You were just a normal bloke in a spooky house with bugger all ammo and quivering in the corner, not trying to die, basically. And it was a success. It was brilliant. I played through 7 fairly recently at the time of recording this, before I played the game I'm talking about today, which is Village, of course. And yeah, it still holds up immensely well, even like nearly 10 years later. The atmosphere is spooky, it's terrifying. Playing it with my partner next to me, she couldn't watch it. Every time she looked at the screen, she would go, "Oh!" That would make me jump more than anything than the game itself. But the atmosphere was tense. It went back to what made Resident Evil. The first person perspective was different, but if you know your knowledge about games back in the day, Resident Evil was the first one, was conceptualized as a first person game, a first person shooter, as it were, because first person shooters in the 90s were quite ubiquitous because of games like Doom and Wolfenstein. They kind of solidified the trend of making games in that nature become popular. And originally they were going to make Resident Evil a first person game, but somewhere on the long way they scrapped it because um, Shinji Mikami, I go on a tangent here. Shinji Mikami wanted to do a sort of spiritual successor to Sweet Home, which was an NES sort of horror game, and he got his ideas from Alone in the Dark. But tangent aside, um, Resident Evil 7 went back to basics. Like, here's a survival horror game, quite linear, very claustrophobic with its environments, which worked perfectly with first person, and it was a huge success. It was a brilliant return to form, and I know that that term's overused in the industry these days, but it was a return to form, which kind of spurred Capcom to make more horror-oriented Resident Evil games, with the Resident Evil 2 remake coming out a couple of years later, and then we got the 3 remake, and then in 2021 we got Resident Evil Village, which was a sequel to Resident Evil 7. And again, it was good, but it kind of veered off in a different direction. Not really supernatural, if you know the story to this game, but it felt like it was more supernatural with the enemy types, with like vampires, lycanthropes, that sort of thing. Um, but overall, great game. It's as I would describe Village. It's like Resident Evil 4, but from first person. But overall, it's still a great game. Is it as a good horror game as 7? No, but is it a good Resident Evil game overall? Yes. But Village was very good. I played through it on the PS5 recently, and I thought, to get me in the mood for Requiem and to kind of like get people in the mood for Resident Evil again, I thought, why not talk about it in this week's video here on YouTube? So let's get into Resident Evil Village, shall we? Resident Evil Village takes place 3 years after the events of RE7, after the Louisiana incident in the Baker household. You step into the hands of Ethan Winters once again, or lack thereof, depending where you are in the story. If you know, you know. Um, but they've been him and his wife Mia have been relocated to Europe with their newborn daughter Rose, and they've been given training by Chris Redfield, who works for Umbrella in this sort of timeline of Resident Evil, and yeah, they seem to be living a quiet, happy life. And the game starts with Mia reading Rose a uh, a fairy tale novel. It opens up almost sort of Tim Burton-esque with the animation when she's reading the storybook, which I quite like. And Ethan's like, "Oh, I shouldn't. I'm not sure if you should be reading that sort of stuff to Rose." And Mia snaps like sort of uncharacteristically, although some would say characteristically, considering the events of the first game. But hey ho. And they put Rose to bed. Then it seems to be a quiet evening for them, about to have some dinner. Or so you think, where Mia is then shot and gunned down horribly by Chris Redfield.
Now, everything's gonna
Seriously? Think we can just forget about what happened in Louisiana?
It happened so long ago. I don't understand why you are so...
Mia! Get down! Mia! Mia. Oh, God. Chris? What the hell?
Sorry, Ethan.
No! What? Why?
And unfortunately, she's dead, or you're presumed that she is dead, and it kickstarts the events of Village. Chris Redfield says nothing to Ethan about the situation, what's going on, and this whole thing would have been sorted if he actually just explained what was going on to Ethan. But Chris never does until much, much later. It's always a bit of a plot hole, this game, with the beginning of it. Like, hang on, why does he shoot Mia? Why does he gun her down? Never explained at all until much later, and it's like, you could have avoided this scenario, and Ethan probably would have cooperated if you just explained the situation. But some would argue there wouldn't be a game if that happened. But Ethan is taken away, arrested. There's a car crash outside the titular village. It's quite a good reveal of the village, actually, because you're wandering through the snow in pure darkness, and then the village in front of you is unveiled with like the castle in front of you, Dimitrescu Castle, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it's great. And then you make your way through the village. You find out something's not quite right. You meet an old man, and he gets killed horribly.
Do you have a gun? What? Please tell me you have a gun.
No, why would I?
Sounds like it's there. Take it! Take it! Tell me this out there.
Hey, are you listening? Hey!
And then you get a gun for the first time, and then you are kidnapped, and again you get kidnapped a couple of times at the start of the game, and then you're unveiled in front of all the villains of the game, like all the lords of the lands. You get Dimitrescu, and Heisenberg's the one that takes you hostage first, which I like it. You see this reveal of all of them: Mother Miranda, Heisenberg, the Dollmaker, and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, keep glory! One day your head will actually fit your ego!
Hey, don't I get a say in this?
Silence! My decision is final. There will be no argument. Remember from whence you came.
Thank you. Lycans and gentlemen, we thank you for waiting. And now let the games begin!
And it's a good introduction because they all don't see eye to eye, and you notice that. And then Heisenberg releases you and like you get chased by lycanthropes, which is a good and tense introduction. And then after that, you're kind of just unleashed into the village to kind of explore a little bit for like different artifacts to progress the story. You first go to Demetrescu Castle, which I thought was a good start, but I feel like Lady Demetrescu, she was heavily used in the marketing with this game back in 2021. She's in the game for like 2 hours. She's almost like advertised as the main villain, but she's only in the game for like 2 hours. She's like the first boss, and after that, obviously, she's never seen again because she dies and you kill her. But all the main villains are quite interesting. They're different. The enemy variety in this game is quite different too. The story in general is quite interesting, and the voice acting across the board is pretty good. Ethan, I'm not a fan of Ethan's voice acting a lot of the time because he just come across as sort of like a petulant child being angry all the time, but he's all right. The rest of the characters are great. The villains are great. They're so over the top and cartoonishly evil. You can't help but smile every time they're on screen, especially Lady Demetrescu and Heisenberg. They're great. And they're always taunting you throughout the game. And Demetrescu acts as like the stalker enemy in the castle. Like each scenario, when you go through the different lords of the game, they act as sort of different gameplay mechanics and gimmicks, whether it be the enemy variety and stuff like that. I don't want to go too much into it because I'll discuss that later in the gameplay. But yeah, the story's great as it unfolds. Voice acting's a bit here and there, but overall the performances are really good. The story's quite well done. It's more sort of supernatural. It's sort of akin to Resident Evil 4, a silly story basically. Resident Evil story is always silly anyway, but yeah, but that's the story for you, and let's get into the gameplay. Gameplay once again is from a first-person perspective, but since the years of this game coming out, Capcom have added a third-person mode, but ultimately this game is designed to be played in first person. And they've tweaked the movement and the shooting to feel more sort of action orientated because Ethan in this game is trained in combat. Unlike the first one, he's not. So his movement speed is faster than the first one. That was my main problem with Resident Evil 7, is that his sprint speed was barely a jog. Whereas in this one, it's a lot better because this game is more combat focused than the first one, but the combat feels good to do compared to the first one because obviously you're kind of wavering all over the place in the first one, whereas in this one you have more military precision as opposed to being like a civilian just trying to use a gun for the first time. But the combat's good. The guns have punch to them. The pistols still sound pathetic, but the shotgun still great. The enemies fly away, their heads explode. The sniper rifle is probably one of my favorites because it has such a good audio feedback on it, and enemies react appropriately to it. You unlock all sorts. You get the sort of standards to a pistol, shotgun, sniper rifle, but you get like grenade launchers, that sort of thing, and it's all just so good to use. You get automatic weapons later too. There is still like inventory management in this game. They take the attaché case system for Resident Evil 4 and put it in this game where you have to kind of like move things about and like play like baggage Tetris, as it were, with the game. And there were a few times where I was kind of like completely full in my inventory, and I had to shuffle things about with like picking up the Magnum, and the sniper rifle was one of them because I foolishly didn't buy the bigger case at that point. But you can extend your inventory by buying it from the merchant. In this case, he's called the Duke. He basically functions as RE4's merchant, and you can upgrade your weapons. You can buy new weapons. You can increase your space of what you can carry, and you can also increase like your overall health and defense through the Duke's kitchen. So basically, what you'll find is animals running around the world, and you think, oh, they're just there for set dressing. No, if you kill them, you can get their meat and then exchange it for different meals for the Duke to eat. And what will happen is when you cook those meals for the Duke, he will give you permanent buffs to your overall character ability. So as I said, it could be permanent extension of your overall health, or you take less damage if you block like that. And it's good incentive to explore a bit more because RE Village is a bit more open-ended compared to 7. RE Village is more open up. There's like the main hub area, which is the titular village, and you can explore for like different items, valuables to sell to the Duke, or new weapon attachments and just guns in general. Like I found a 1911 in the village as well when I was exploring around, that sort of thing. But when you get into the actual areas, it becomes linear, and that's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. I'd say the less linear part of the game when you're fighting one of the lords is Lady Demetrescu's castle. When you're exploring her castles, the hallways, that sort of thing. But overall, every other area is pretty straightforward and pretty linear. Each area is distinct, and the gameplay mechanics different. As I said briefly in the story part, Demetrescu Castle acts like the stalker portion of the game. So she acts like Mr. X or Nemesis. She will stalk you throughout the castle, only in select areas though. So there'll be areas where she can't go in, like save rooms and like puzzle rooms certain puzzle rooms you do. But overall, she will stalk you in like the hallways, the main hall, bits of the castle courtyard. She'll stalk you in that sort of thing until you eventually kill her. And then you've got like the Doll Maker, which is this purely a good old fashioned survival horror puzzle room where you have to solve a puzzle, and then eventually you are stalked by like a massive enemy, which in the case of Ethan, it's like a massive manifestation of like a fetus, which is terrifying, by the way. And yeah, throughout that section I was completely terrified, and my partner refused to look when I was playing it. But but it's tense because you have no weapons on you. You cannot fight this thing. You have to use your wits of like hiding places, maneuver around it, that sort of thing. And it feels like something like Outlast or something like that, having to use your wits of like the environment as opposed to brawn with weapons and that sort of thing. And then you have the Doll Maker. Well, the Doll Maker boss fight, we have to find her, which is part of the same section. It's all different in each section. Like even Heisenberg's factory, where it's all combat, but the enemies are wildly different to what you've come across beforehand because they're all mechanical. They've got like weak points you have to shoot, which would be on their chest or on their back. Whereas beforehand, you've just been fighting like zombies and lycanthropes, that sort of thing, and vampires. And the enemy variety in general is like, it's pretty varied compared to 7. 7, you just fought mostly just mold monsters, these gangly things that look like the regenerators from Resident Evil 4. They weren't particularly interesting. They were pretty irritating to fight too, because it was quite hard to get a beat on them with your shots. But the enemy variety is fantastic. There are puzzles, but they're not particularly difficult. They're pretty just visual cue sort of things. And the boss fights, they're pretty good. They're quite varied. Heisenberg's boss fight is quite ludicrous. I'll show you here.
Will be another addition to my order! Time I'll crush you like an egg! I need more!
It's basically like a Transformers fight. Basically, it's just so ludicrous and over the top. And to be honest, it's just a Resident Evil game with that sort of thing. But it kind of comes out of left field. Heisenberg's fight, where all of them you kind of had to use your weapons, whereas in Heisenberg's fight, you get given this mechanical thing which has a chainsaw, a cannon, and a machine gun with infinite ammo on it, which you're just kind of like, hang on a minute, this sucks all tension out. Entertaining nonetheless, but it's just like, okay. And then the Mother Miranda fight is just kind of like moving out of the way of her attacks and then shooting her over and over again. It's not particularly engaging, the last boss fight. Beforehand, you were kind of like gunning down loads of werewolves as Chris Redfield, because it was kind of like the reward after like saving all your ammo. Whereas in the Chris Redfield chapter, you just get loads of ammo, just gun everything down. But overall, the gameplay in this game is really, really good. A step up from the first one with the first-person combat, and yeah, it is more combat-heavy focused compared to I was about to say the first game, but 7. But that's kind of like contextually intentional, because you have moved on from being that sort of like helpless civilian to trained sort of military personnel. Although technically you're not part of Chris Redfield's outfit, but you were trained to help deal with these situations now, because Ethan is more capable compared to what he was in 7. And yeah, the gameplay is just fantastic, and presentation and stuff like that, which I'll get into in a minute, is amazing considering it came out on 5 different platforms, and I'll get into that now. Once again, this game runs on Capcom's in-house RE engine, like in Resident Evil 7, 2 Remake, 3 Remake. And once again, this game looks phenomenal. I mean, this game came out 5 years ago at the time of recording this. And not to say that any game from 5 years ago looks terrible. It's just that these games seem to stand out, even though they go for sort of like a somewhat realistic look to them. What stands out to me immediately, once again, is the character models. The character models look really, really good, especially because you're in a first-person perspective and you're engaging with a lot of these characters quite close up to them. And like the first time you meet Lady Demetrescu, it's all so good. Like, you've got the dim lighting, she's right in your face, and she's doing certain things to you, which I won't say out loud. It's not rude or anything, but a bit graphic, like her, like, let's just say, sucking your blood.
Now, daughters. First, I must inform Mother Miranda. But later, well, there will be enough for everyone. Udama!
Hey, wait.
Oh, be careful what you wish for, Ethan Winters.
And yeah, it's just all so well detailed. Like the lip syncing's good, the facial animations are really good, and as I said before, the performance is going very well with the facial animations too. It's all over the top stuff. Like Lady Dimitrescu's performance is over the top. She's sort of this sort of like aristocratic woman, over the top, like with a cigarette in her hand, with a 1940s style dress, and it's like all so high and mighty, trying to kill you.
Mother Miranda, I regret to inform you that Ethan Winters has escaped that fool Heisenberg. Because he is in my castle and has already proven too much for my daughters to handle. When I find him... No, Mother Miranda. Yes, of course, I understand the importance of the ceremony. I won't let you down. To hell with the ceremony! That man will pay for what he's done.
It's all great, and the environments look fantastic. The village with the snow, the enemy design with the werewolves, the lichens, and the zombies, the different type of enemies within Heisenberg's factory. It's all so good. It's all well thought out, and it works well within this setting. It all runs at a beautiful 60 FPS on PS5. It all ran at a pretty good frame rate on the PS4 when I played this back in the day in 2021 when I didn't have a PS5. I even played this on Xbox One. Across the board, like on all platforms, it looks really good. That's just how well optimized the RE engine is. It's just so good. And just in general, this overall, it just all looks fantastic. It all looks really, really, really gross, if you know what I mean, with certain enemy types, and just like the gore effects are over the top, and some of it I won't be able to show on YouTube because you know what YouTube's like with violence. But it's all just absolutely stunning, and it just makes me more excited with what I've seen with Resident Evil Requiem, because they're not bound by the PS4 and the Xbox One anymore. And just overall, it just looks beautiful. It comes together and runs really well. So if you're worried about it running poorly on like on 8th gen hardware, don't be, because it runs really well on any hardware, because it's just so well optimized. And yeah, that's it. So overall, Resident Evil Village, still a fantastic game after 5 years since I've played it. It's just an amazing game, and I know some people these days kind of have gone back on that. They've gone like, oh, it's probably not my favorite, and that's fair enough, because it does veer more into the action sort of subset of Resident Evil, which has always happened, let's be honest, because Resident Evil 2, people seem to forget that it was more action focused, and same with 3, and 4 kind of just dialed it up to 11, and 5 and 6 kind of lost the memo of what made 4 so good. But digressions aside, Resident Evil Village is still very good and still worth your time. Quite a cheap game to pick up these days. And if you're looking to kind of just get in the mood for like Requiem, I'd recommend it. It's like, is it going to be in the same tone as Requiem? Probably not. But the first person games I do recommend playing, because they're very, very good, very tense, very violent in places. If you're worried about like violence and gore, probably not the best idea if you're particularly squeamish. But they're very good horror games. I recommend them, and I'm just so excited for Resident Evil Requiem and see what we get with it. And what I've seen of Requiem so far, it looks fantastic from the state of play we had, the stuff we've seen last year, and that's out like next week at the time of recording this, because I'm recording this on a Thursday or Friday. It's either one or two. So yeah, what do you think of Resident Evil Village? Let me know down below. What is your favorite Resident Evil game? Also, let me know down below. And yeah, thanks again for watching me ramble about a video game I've been playing recently. I do appreciate you lot leaving comments and likes, that sort of thing, having good discussions down below. You lot have been fantastic on these videos, been leaving great comments about, like, recently my PS3 video has been picking up traction. Lots of great comments about the PlayStation 3, that sort of thing, like why you picked one up. You picked one up cheap too, I've noticed, some of you lot. But love just talking about games I've played recently. It doesn't even have to be related to what's coming out in like the next week or so. It's just me talking about games I've just been playing, to be honest. And I like doing it. Like at the moment I'm playing Metal Gear Solid. I might do a video about it, I might not. It's that sort of thing. I just kind of do these videos off the cuff and just talk about them for about 20 minutes to 40 minutes, that sort of thing. And I just really appreciate you lot stopping by. Over 200 subs now. Let's keep this going. Let's see how far I can get this year in 2026, my sub count. But once again, press all the buttons, like, subscribe, all that nonsense, leave a comment. And I'll see you lot in the next one. I'll see you later. Bye.